What's up, guys? Welcome back to the 7th episode of the Coughy Show. My name is Mike, and I got Eric here with me.
What's up?
So first off, we got a big announcement this week. As most of you probably know, Burner is going to be here on October 24th for a show at the Waiting Room. And we've also got him coming to the coffee shop before that show for your chance to get autographs and pictures with him. That's going to be a free event. The time is still to be announced depending on kind of when they get into town, but he will be here for a whole 2 hours, so make sure you pay attention to our page for updates on the time. The flyer should be going out either today or tomorrow, and get here early to get in line because, again, he's only here for 2 hours. We don't really know how busy that's going to get or anything, so yeah.
Clear schedules.
Clear those schedules. It is a Thursday. So first in news here, we've got Medicine Man. So Medicine Man owns and operates 4 rec dispensaries and 1 medical dispensary in Colorado. And to me, this is kind of stupid, or I'm not really sure what the word is here, but so I guess the some of the vape products that they've been selling contain propylene glycol, which isn't as bad of a cut as the vitamin E stuff, but it's still a cut nonetheless. And I guess they've also been selling products with the vitamin E acetate, which has been the issue in the news the last few weeks.
Yeah, I don't know if it's stupidity or if it's more ignorance. Like, especially, I mean, owning a dispensary is one thing, but when you want to be on the medical side of things, I find it hard to believe that you don't have anybody that's smart enough or educated enough to look at what we're putting in and say, you know, propylene, how do you say it? Propylene glycol, maybe okay, but vitamin E acetate, it's very clear now that was never anything that was intended to be consumed and or vaporized.
Yeah, they should be, I mean, we scrutinize our products here, but they should be scrutinizing 10 times harder. I mean, first you got medicine in your name. Besides that, you're operating what you're calling a medical dispensary, and you're supposed to be giving people products to help them with different ailments, and you're just like fueling some of those ailments and making things worse. You know, people come to you for help, not to end up in the hospital.
And it's like, yeah, it's good that they pulled the products, but then I look at it as like, well, you're just trying to get ahead of the fact that you've been doing wrong this whole time and you don't want people to find out. It's a lot different than like, oh, you know, we never used it or we tried it, but I don't feel you really did it because of the best interest in your customers. It was more you didn't want that hard drop in sales when people figured out that you were using trash instead of actual product that you should have been using.
And to me, they waited too long to begin with because, I mean, we've been talking about this issue for what, like 2 weeks now?
Yeah, easy.
So, yeah, they should have pulled this like 2 to 3 weeks ago. So they got 2 to 3 weeks more of profit out of that. And then, so what comes of it when their customers end up in the hospital? They're going to be footing those hospital bills and covering all those, you know, expenses associated with that, like being out of work and stuff.
Funeral expenses at this point because so many people are dying from vitamin E acetate poisoning.
Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous. So, fuck MedMen.
For real.
So on to more news here. We've talked about the truck drivers going through Idaho before, and the headline's a little deceiving. They're saying that the charges were reduced for these guys. The charges really weren't reduced. These guys just kind of don't have any other options, so they took a plea agreement to plead guilty to a misdemeanor in return for suspended jail sentences and fines. So they're still being forced into a conviction for a product that's legal. And Idaho is saying, despite changes to the federal schedule of cannabis, or of the controlled substance brought about by the enactment of the Agricultural Improvement Act of 2018, cannabis plants containing any amount of THC or Delta-9 THC remain illegal in Ohio. And they're saying that until those regulations come out, they're going to continue to be considered illegal products. So what we have to, or I guess what these guys are going to have to do probably is once the federal law is enacted, maybe they can go back and get these overthrown, hopefully. So up next, we had some big news yesterday. The hemp banking protection passed the House. So we've touched on this before about having issues with credit card processing, and especially when it comes to selling CBD products and hemp products online. So what this does is tell the banking industry that it's okay for you to work with hemp companies. So these guys now have now it gets pushed to the Senate, and they're worried that because the Senate is Republican controlled that they're going to have issues, but Mitch McConnell is the leader over there, so hopefully, since he's a big proponent for hemp, he will help, push that through and show his Republican friends that this is the way to go. So moving on here, we've talked about hemp planes before. We've briefly touched on hemp cars, I believe, but this is now a hemp sports car that's in the process of being made. So, as everybody knows, Henry Ford developed a similar plant-based car back in 1941 that was fueled on agricultural residues. So now this guy is developing a full-on sports car that is using carbon negative technology, which means that they actually reduce the amount of carbon dioxide used instead of add more. So even if they were to use what most people use in this industry, which is carbon fiber for a lightweight material, all that's doing is helping the car be lighter. I guess it does help it be a little more fuel efficient, but it's more about getting more speed out of the car. So what they're doing here, or what they're saying here, is that on average producing a 25-pound carbon fiber hood generates about 500 pounds of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So even though it's better for your car, makes your car lighter and more fuel efficient, it's still killing the atmosphere. And then, so his cars are actually made with hemp fibers, and then they're held together with a soy-based epoxy. The plant materials actually take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere instead of creating even more. So not only are they good materials to use to begin with, as far as being carbon negative, they're actually pulling carbon dioxide out of the environment just while they're in use. So besides designer cars, he also wants to work on doing wind turbines, electric bikes, and more. And his quote here says, "Farmers are literally going to save the earth." It would be cool to see wind turbines and electric bikes and stuff like that, because being here in the Midwest, we see wind turbines all the time just outside of the city. If you travel into Iowa a little bit, or you travel just outside of Omaha, you're going to see wind turbines, and hell, we see the pieces to them flying down the interstate all the time in both directions.
Big old trucks.
Yeah. So moving on, in Kentucky last week, we had a hemp farmer that caught some thieves on camera stealing some plants from his farm. I guess they got away with about 20 plants. So this has been common in the marijuana industry going back forever. It's just known when it comes around to this time of year that these guys tighten up their security and have armed guards on staff, because they know that people are going to come out, and they're called rippers, are going to come rip their plants out of the ground after they've put in all this hard work for the whole season and try to capitalize on that. So these dumb criminals don't really, CBD is, it has a value, but not nearly as much value as a THC plant. So the assumption here is that the criminals mistake them for a regular marijuana plant as opposed to a hemp plant.
Imagine how stupid they feel waking up in jail every morning and realizing that's why they're sitting in jail for theft.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure they're getting so much shit.
You didn't even steal anything, yeah, like you said, it has a value, but from what you thought you were getting to what you really got, it's such a funny spectrum of it really wasn't worth it. You're definitely going to learn now that was a terrible mistake, especially based on what they value that out. Imagine catching a felony for stealing some hemp plants. Buy some seeds and grow it in your backyard. It's not that hard.
Right, and yeah, you're in a legal state, you can do that.
You don't
but
have to steal
it comes
them.
down to, like, just like a thief anywhere. They don't want to do the work. They want to use your work and kind of capitalize on that.
Rippers are trying to reap the reward.
Rippers and reapers.
Say that 3 times fast.
So next up from Wired.com, we've spoke about athletes using CBD as a painkiller before. I like seeing these articles, especially when they're in different sports. So we're seeing all these different sports come together, and a lot of retired athletes coming together and jumping on the CBD train because, before CBD came along, it's been pretty common for these guys to jump on opioids and stuff like that to deal with pain. So this one is starting out talking about a NHL player who played 8 seasons. His name is Riley Cope, or Cody. I'm not really sure how he pronounces that. So he retired in 2010, and he had sustained repeated trauma to his brain and body, so he suffered from chronic pain.
It's good with these like athletes too, because they have such a big platform that that really goes out to millions of people. Anyone that's a celebrity athlete that have these big followings, that's what really helps to get people talking about things, is when they actually see it and then they say, oh, look at him, he likes this, look at him, they use this. That's a big way to get the word out there. That's you got to think any professional athlete's got to have millions of people that follow them on social media, that actually support them and followed them through their career. It's a big talking point for somebody like that can say, look, we use this, you're like us, we do it too, this is what it helps me with. And it gets that thought going for the everyday person that
right.
You don't want to
such a huge age range from young to old.
Exactly.
Sports are watched by
millions.
Everybody. Not me, but everybody.
Yeah, I don't know shit about sports. Go Huskers though, right?
Right.
I don't know anything about sports.
So in 2017, the World Anti-Doping Agency removed CBD from its list of banned substances. That same year, the former National Basketball Association Commissioner David Stern and the league should change. Wait, what? Should change to allow. So they were supposed to change to allow players to use medical marijuana?
And quote that again?
So the quote says that same year, former NBA Commissioner David Stern and the league should change its policies to allow players to use medical marijuana. I think they had a little typo there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because with the NHL, the National Hockey League, they've stopped penalizing players that do test positive for marijuana, which helps because CBD obviously is full spectrum. So whether they're smoking or using marijuana or not, at least it's not being banned or benched or paying these huge penalties for testing positive. Because, how does that hurt you any more than testing positive for Oxycontin that your doctor wrote you a prescription for, where you can't drive or function?
Right. So, and then this year, the NFL Players Association partnered with the NFL to study marijuana and CBD as alternatives to other therapies, primarily opioids.
Always a win.
Yeah, for real. So this month, the NIH announced 9 new research grants devoted to investigating CBD's potential as an anti-inflammatory and pain relief therapy. And then they go on to say that this athlete, Cody, has started his own CBD business, and he's saying that he's actually using this stuff and taking a pill in the morning to help with pain management and inflammation, and then he's doing a tincture at night to help him with sleep. And if he's sore from a workout, he might use a topical cream during the day on his muscles or joints. So it seems to be kind of a common thing with these retired athletes. They get out of the sports, they're damaged, hurting in one way or another, so they try out CBD and they realize that it works for them, so then they jump into the CBD business because, as Eric mentioned, they have such a huge platform to reach out to millions of Americans and people across the world. Obviously he's going to make money on the product, but he's going to help so much more people than just us sitting here talking about CBD could ever do. So moving on to our last article here, the nation's largest advocacy group for arthritis releases CBD guidelines. This is from Forbes.com. So AARP marked a milestone this year in its medical marijuana acceptance and announcement that they said they don't want older Americans to navigate this brave new world of cannabis alone. So now the Arthritis Foundation is helping its constituents figure out how to use CBD with the CBD guidance for adults with arthritis recently published on their website. So we spoke about this before, and the seniors are probably the hardest target to reach because they went through the prohibition and everything, and they've been taught so many years that CBD or hemp, marijuana is just a
gateway drug in their eyes.
Yeah, gateway drug. It's bad. It's gonna make you be a lazy stoner or whatever the negative connotations are. It's cool to see these organizations that they go to for guidance jumping on and showing them the path that, you know, this is definitely something you can try. And, you know, they're not going to tell you to use this. What they say is, if you're going to try it, this is how you should do it safely.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's another huge organization that's going to just tell people, you know, you get that conversation started, obviously based on who your doctor is or what, you know, where you live in the United States. You know, some of them don't know, some of them may, but that at least gets you asking questions and say, you know, do you think this would work? What do you think I should try? It gives people another option. You know, obviously with CBD, especially as you get older and you take a lot more prescriptions, whether it be for your heart or your blood or anything else, it's good to have that conversation of, you know, do you think this is good with this? Do you think that they'll pair well? But that at least gets it in people's mind that, you know, something that's trusted like AARP that they use and that's been around. I remember the commercials when I was little for AARP. That gets them to consider it as an alternative and understand that it's not just like smoking pot anymore. It's actually something that may provide you that medical relief and help you live a better life, especially, you know, once you're older and you have those issues.
Right. And so what pushed them to do this was they took a survey, and their survey is saying that 79% of people that are either using CBD currently or looking to use CBD currently. So that's a number of people that are over 60. So it's all seniors. And they're saying that they're using this to treat pain or help with anxiety and sleep. So those are probably the three most common reasons that we get people in here for CBD.
Yeah, definitely. Pain, anxiety, and something that can help them sleep at night without having to, you know, take another pill that you pick up at the pharmacy every week.
Right. So then they, initially when they started this, they were thinking that they were just going to go down the path of CBD because it's, you know, federally legal, as opposed to THC where there's only, you know, the certain medical states. So they ended up going with recommending low doses of THC because, you know, full spectrum products are legal in all 50 states. So the idea here is that, you know, CBD will usually help on its own with pain, but adding THC, you know, with a full spectrum product, you definitely see a lot more benefits.
Yeah, you get them together, and you know that also, like you said, some states are legal for medical marijuana, some aren't. But it's good that you can, you know, instead of just picking one or the other, at least guide them down both paths for the states where it is, you know, easily accessible. So that way, you know, you're helping older people rediscover it, and that gets them thinking, you know, it still is an option. Obviously, places like where we're at, Nebraska, maybe not going to work out for a long time. But, you know, if you live in Colorado, at Los Angeles, those are all great places where you can consider the use of both to help, you know, with your ailments.
Right. So that's all we got for you this week. We'll catch you guys next week.
Have a good week.